Hi, this is Mr. Ring for Math 4 Quiz 2 Correction, sections 2.1, 2.2, taken on September 30th, 2016. Directions: show all your work in the space provided, box your answers. Kaya drew a segment BC on the coordinate plane. Determine the distance between the points B and C. Leave in radical form, no decimals or calculators. The reason why I wrote that is because a lot of students are, I want you guys to have the skill of simplifying radicals. So you can do this problem in two ways. You can either use distance formula or the Pythagorean theorem. Distance formula, you just write down your coordinates. So for B, you're going to go left 2, so that's -2, and then up 4. C, you're going to go left 3, 1, 2, 3, then down 4, that would be -4. And distance formula, again, I'm highlighting that pink sign because a lot of students are leaving out their negative signs when they put in your x. Say, for example, your x1 value, put in -2 here. I saw a lot of students leave the red mark but not a negative there. That'd be incorrect. So opposite of -2 is a +2. Y2 value is -4. Y1 is 4. -4 minus 4 is a -8. Notice the math operations inside. -1, this means -1 times -1, which is 1. -8 times -8 is 64. Add those together and you'll get 65, the square root of 65. You lose a point if you just left it 65. If you wrote the distance formula, I'd give you 2 points. If you probably got down to something like right here, I would give you maybe 3 points. Here, on this, I'm using the Pythagorean theorem. So between those 2 points, you can make a right triangle either this direction or this direction. It's basically just a rectangle. And there's my Pythagorean theorem. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. And you're just counting the sides. This is probably going to be your b value. This is my a value. Just by counting the boxes, that would be 8. And you notice when you get here, c squared equals 65. Take the square root of both sides. C is equal to square root of 65. Here's an example of a student or a pair of students who didn't write down the distance formula correctly. Notice how I circled it. Here's a pair of students who didn't recognize that the word distance. There's no mention of midpoint, so they used the midpoint formula. That would have been incorrect. Here's an example of a pair of students who got the distance formula correct. They also have the minus sign, which is good, and then they have troubles simplifying integers. So this again is both negatives, so the negative teams get together. That's a -8. Here this should have been opposite of a -2 is a +2. -3 plus 2 or 2 minus 3 is -1. Question 2a, for the conditional statement. So the word conditional has the words if and then, or if they don't have it in there, you can put it in there. It says draw a diagram. So if ray, because it has one arrow, BD bisects angle ABC, so draw angle ABC. Most important letter is B, because that's in the middle there, which means this case is called your vertex. And if you draw a ray from there, there's your ray BD, and this is the knife, and this knife's going to cut into two sections, these two. So go ahead and draw your congruent marks. From there, you'll have ABD. ABD is congruent to CBD. A lot of students forgot to draw the congruent sign, so if you did that, you got only 3 points. Question 2b, using the statement above, write the hypothesis as the given and the conclusion as the proof. So the word if, all the words after the word if is going to be the hypothesis right here, so you just copy that. I didn't deduct any points, but you should not include the word if. If you do that again, I might have to take off a point. The proving part is your conclusion. The conclusion comes after the word then, so you just copy all of that. Angle ABD is congruent to angle CBD. Here's an example of a student who probably should have actually received 2 points. They didn't draw angle ABC. It's incorrect. This is angle BAC. And also they forgot the congruent symbols. Notice down here that the student had the word if in your given. You don't write the word given. I mean, in given, you don't write the word if, but I still give him full credit. Here, the student does have the congruent marks, but down here, this student doesn't have a proof, so I should put a 0 and a slash because that's left blank. And they didn't know what to do, so all they did is they just copied the whole statement here, and they just took out the words if and then, so they didn't know where the hypothesis or conclusion was. Right, whether the angles are adjacent or non-adjacent. The word adjacent just means that they are next to and they share a ray or a side, like here in B. Non-adjacent means the angles or angle numbers, for example, this is angles 3 and 4, are adjacent. In this one, they are not adjacent. Although they do share a common endpoint here, they do not share a common ray or side. So if you put 6 right there, then they would be adjacent. Over here, they are detached, so they are not next to each other and not sharing that wall. Whether the following statement is true or false. If it is false, give a counterexample. The statement is, if a number is even, then it is a multiple of 4. A lot of you guys were asking me what the word multiple of 4 means. We've done that in class. Multiple of 4 just basically means it's divisible by 4 and there's no remainder. So a check mark means this 4, 8, 12, anything that's times 4 and there's no remainder. 5, I should pick a different number, but 5 is not a multiple of 4 because when you do 4 goes into 5, there's a remainder of 1. So that's the definition of multiple of 4. So another way you can write this is if a number is even, then the only answer or absolutely must be a multiple of 4. The answer is false. So if you wrote false, and that's it, I'll give you 2 points. If you give me a good counterexample, I'll give you another 2 points for a total of 4. A counterexample is 6. 6 is an even number, but is not a multiple of 4. Good one, false. 34 is not a multiple of 4. That's a good one because it goes in there 8, remainder 2. This student got 1 point for just trying because they wrote true because every even number can be divided by 2, and 2 is a multiple of 4. So that means that it can be used on any even number. So we are talking about even numbers, but we're talking about also exclusively that is also that number must be a multiple of 4. Here it says write whether the angles are complementary, supplementary, or neither. So complementary is blank plus blank equals 90, or just 2 angles added up to be equal to 90 degrees. Supplementary does not matter if they are adjacent or non-adjacent. They just have 2 angles added up to be 180. Blank plus blank equals 180. And neither means that the angles do not add up to neither or not 90 and not 180. So if you put into your calculator, those 2 numbers add up to 180, supplementary. Here, if you add up those 2 numbers, you're going to get 100 degrees, so that would be neither, and add those 2 up to be 90, that's complementary. In these questions, it's 2 points. 2 points are nothing for multiple choice slash fill in the blank, things like that. Question number 6 says solve for x. I have this picture here. I have perpendicular lines. I know they're perpendicular because of the right angle. Again, if you just write down the correct formula, blank plus blank equals 90, you're automatically going to get 2 points because you knew where to go. This is an example of complementary angles. So for each blank, you're just going to fill in what you have in for there for the angle measure. So right here you have x or 1x, and over here you have 3x plus 18 equals 90. And you're just going to combine like terms. 1x and 3x gives you 4x plus 18 equals 90. If you drew a line down to the equal sign, you're going to take this 18 and make them combine like terms. So to do that, you'll do the opposite. So the opposite of positive 18 is negative 18. There in your calculator, 4x equals 72. There's multiplication there, doing the opposite, which is dividing by 4 on both sides, and you get x is equal to 18. If I do extend the question, you can, if I say what is the angle of the smallest angle, you just take in 18 and put in whatever is the smallest one and figure out which is the smallest angle. Here's an example of a student who left question number 6 blank, 0 and a slash there. It means they get 0 points. At least they could have tried something. Trying an equation can be wrong, but at least you get some partial credit, at least 1 out of 4. Here's a common mistake for question number 6. The student ignores this angle here, and they just set each one of these equals to 90 degrees, or I've even seen some students to actually do both equal to 90. So again, you're adding these 2 angles. That's why the equation blank plus blank equals 90, what we practice in class, is important. Here's an example of a student who got the, at least they knew that they added up to be 90 degrees. So there I give them a check, and that's 2 points. But again, they're forgetting the x or the 1x, and that's why their answer is wrong. Here's a student work where their side was not graded, so I didn't grade this one, but they combined like terms there. 4x plus 18 is correct, but they didn't know that it's set equal to 90 degrees, and your hint is that box. Here's an example of a student who looked at the problem, recognized what the angle relationship is, and it's complementary, and they have their equation here, blank plus blank equals 90. And this kind of helps them start. Remember, you're putting into each of the blanks there your angle measures. Question number 7, solve for the missing variables. You have this picture here. Notice you can't use linear pair because you have two different variables. Can't use supplementary or linear pair here. Same thing, two different variables. So the only thing that has the same variables are the x's. You're going across. Looks like an x. These are called vertical angles. Opposite angles are congruent. So the equation you should be setting up is 4x plus 18 equals 6x. That's the definition of vertical angles. Here, you're setting all of that angle into each of the blanks. And from there, I'm going to combine like terms. So going across the equal sign, I'm going to do opposite, so minus 4x. This comes down, and 6 minus 4 gives us 2x. Get rid of the 2, divided by 2, and you get x equals 4. You're going to take the x equals 4, and you're going to try to solve for y. So you can do this in multiple ways. You look at two of these, which is the least complicated, or the easiest one. There it is, 6x. Let's just multiply by 6, so put in a 4 there. And I get 24. So that means I know that this whole angle here is 24. And to get y, I just have to do blank plus blank equals 180. There, it's a linear pair. So 24 goes in there, and a y, subtract 24, and you get 156. You got 3 points if you wrote in here x equals 24. So x is not the angle measure here, but if you put an x in there, that'll help you find the angle measure, which is 24, but here we're just solving for the variables. In this case, the variable y is an angle. You also got 3 points if you can at least solve for x. Here's an example of a student whose side I didn't grade, but I want you to be careful. Like if I was grading this problem here, although they set up the equation correctly, I would have given them 2 points, but also notice that they have the correct answers with no work, and that's why I'm writing SW, show their work. Again, this was a partner quiz. You guys didn't know whose paper I was grading, but I want you to be careful because you're not just copying answers. You will not get that credit. Here's an example of a student. Doesn't really have much on their paper. They did write in some answers, and I gave them 1 point. Here's an example of a student who knew some kind of an equation to start with. This is an ungraded problem. Blank plus blank equals 180, so I guess they didn't recognize it goes in this direction, but they knew to get the x's together. So if I was grading this problem, I'd probably give it a 1 point. They knew where to start, maybe a 2, but their equation was incorrect. The rest of the problem would be wrong. Here's another example where the students knew to put the x's together, but they used the wrong equation. So again, vertical angles, they're going to be equal. You can also pretend if you put a line right here and you can fold them on top of each other, and you'll notice that they will be equal. Here's a student example, kind of messy. At least they're showing the work. 6x equals 4x plus 8. Okay, x equals 4. Trying to figure out what else the student used. They put in the 4 there. Here, 4 times 4 is 16 plus 8 equals 24. Then that student put it in here, and they knew that y equals 156. A student tried to do something over here where they thought they could here y plus 4x plus 8, they knew it was 180, and they subtracted 8, and they realized that they had 2 different variables, so it looks like they stopped. That was very wise. Now the student recognized something. The student recognized they can check their answer. They took y equals 156. So they're doing the linear pair here, or into this equation, they're just substituting. And they subtracted 164 from both sides. You get 4x equals 16 to verify that x equals 4. I hope going through these quiz corrections will be helpful for you so don't make the same mistake on this week's quiz. Have a great day.